sin is the absolute opposite of God. So if God is this way, sin is not this way or this way. God is this way, sin is this way. It is the exact opposite of God. So to pursue holiness and righteousness is to flee from sin and immorality. It is the opposite direction. Holiness leads to life. Sin leads to destruction. When we go back to Genesis, I love preaching out of the Old Testament. Do you like preaching out of the Old Testament, Pastor Dirk? I just love it. And people are like, but it's so old school. I'm like, yeah, but it's so gangster. Like, it's so good. I love it. In Genesis, when you read in Genesis, okay? I know, I'm real transparent. You'll find I'm really not as prissy as you think. When you read in Genesis, in the beginning of the word, the first two brothers, Cain and Abel, this is really important. I need you to understand this. Cain and Abel, okay? First two brothers in mankind. God was requiring a sacrifice from Cain and Abel, okay? Now, Cain got real gangster with his, okay? He went up, above, and beyond, okay? He wanted the best sacrifice, but it wasn't because his heart loved God. It was because he wanted to outdo his brother. It had nothing to do with purity. It had nothing to do with honoring God. It had everything to do with look at me, myself, and I to outdo his brother, okay? Abel had a pure heart before God. Abel, that holiness factor, it's a pure heart condition before God. Abel brought God the sacrifice. It wasn't necessarily anything crazy, but his heart condition was to honor God. So he gave him the best he had, and he honored God. So the word says that God found favor on Abel's heart condition, okay? And Cain, because of that, here's that offense again, okay? Because God found favor with Abel because of his heart condition, not because of the work, not because of his act, okay? His heart condition. Cain took an offense. So Cain murdered his brother. But before that, God went to Cain and he said, Cain, sin, watch this, sin is crouching at your door. You must master it. Do not open the door. You must master it because it desires to have you. Cain, if you just do the right thing, if you just do what is right, Cain, righteousness, to be in right standing with God, if you just do what is right, but sin is crouching at your door, and if you don't master it, it desires to have you. Church, you do not have to find sin. Sin has already found you. Okay? Sin is already at the door. And God says, just don't open the door. Just don't. All the devil needs is this much. That's it. And usually it starts right here. Okay? We must be transformed into a likeness, Christ-mindedness, a likeness of God's mind and heart. Because sin is already there. Listen to me. If you do not master sin, sin will master you. If you do not master sin, sin will master you. And in James we find out this. When you give birth to the thought of sin, when you think upon sin, it starts here. Okay? It starts here. That's why the devil, deceived Eve here first. When you think on sin, it gives birth to desire. Desire gives birth to action, and action gives birth to death. For the wages of sin is death. We have to understand this. Allie, what is sin? Sin is anything that disagrees with the Word of God. When God says don't, don't. It's really simple.